Hello everyone, today we'll talk about what to do when the opening is over, and we'll learn the basics of the middle part of the game, known as the middle game. Stay tuned till the very end of the video where I'm going to show you a very exciting game of my own. Right, so the most important things to remember in the middle game, as you're just starting off your journey in chess, are essentially two things. One is capturing loose pieces, and the other thing is to attack the king. Right, so as far as capturing loose pieces, I want you to remember two very important cases when capturing loose pieces is typically a good idea. So one of these cases is if your piece, after you capture the loose piece, your piece won't be captured at all. And the second case is if you'll lose less points than the opponent does after you capture a piece and your piece is captured back. So they might seem quite difficult to understand just when explained, so let's take a look at some examples. Alright, so case number one is if your piece won't be captured at all as a result of you capturing a loose piece. So here it's black to move, and perhaps you can spot that white's bishop is a loose piece. What do exactly I mean by loose piece? Well, the white bishop is just standing there, it's attacked, and it is not defended by anything. So the black queen can just go ahead and capture this white bishop without any consequence and simply win 3 points of material. Remember, the bishop is worth 3 points. Alright, let's take a look at an example of scenario 2. That's if you lose less points after you capture a loose piece. So you see the rook is just hanging and it's black to move, and black just can go ahead and take the rook with the knight. Now, since the knight is worth less points than the rook, you can still go ahead and capture the rook, which is just hanging over there, and white will be able to recapture, but white will have won 3 points because it's just a knight that they captured, whereas black will have won 5 points. Of course, in a scenario like this, let's say the black queen wants to capture the white rook. Well, the white rook is a loose piece, it can be captured, but in this scenario, it's not a very good idea, because if you go ahead and do that, your queen is going to be recaptured, and yeah, black did take white's piece and won 5 points, but white won 9 points because they captured a more valuable piece, the queen. So in this scenario, capturing the piece wouldn't really work for black. Attacking the king and trying to checkmate him is a very, very important principle of the middle game, and many middle games, especially in beginner chess, are centered around this. What better way to show it than through a game? And I'm going to show one of my own games, as I promised. And here we can recap the opening principles, and we can also take a look at how to attack the king. Okay, so in this game I was playing with the black pieces, so we have flipped the board, and here my opponent started with e4. I played d5. Again, this is called the Scandinavian defense, and again you can see both sides are fighting for the center and opening up pathways for their bishops to be developed very soon. And now white played e takes on d5, so we captured the pawn with white's pawn, and I played knight to f6, developing my knight, preparing to capture this pawn and move the knight to a nice central square. White also played a developmental move, knight to f3. Now black plays knight takes on d5. So far it's quite a nice position, quite a nice game. Both players are making very logical moves, but now there's quite a strange move that white made here, and white played knight to e5, and this move is quite dubious because there's no good reason really for white to be moving this knight for a second time. While he could have developed his bishop or better established his central control by perhaps playing d4 and opening the pathway to the other bishop, but white chooses to put this knight on e5 for what seems to be no particular purpose. But okay, perhaps he had some intricate idea in mind. Well, I continued my development in quite a regular way. I played bishop to f5, and white plays d3. A rather logical move where we're taking control of these central squares here. e4, c4 also close to the center, and we're opening a pathway to this bishop, but there's a little limitation. As you can see, this bishop is kind of blocked. So I play knight to d7, knight takes d7, queen takes d7, a fair trade, 3 points for 3 points. h3, a move that has nothing to do with the two main principles that we discussed. There are certain reasons why this is played. I can imagine that the main one could be that he doesn't want my bishop to come here to g4 and attack the queen and perhaps cause some difficulties here. So I decided to castle queenside, continue my development. Bishop to e2, again developing his bishop, preparing to castle. e5, castles, and king to b8, bringing my king even farther away from the center of the board, bringing it to safety. a3, now this move is quite strange. There's not really much of a reason. Perhaps he's trying to prevent my pieces from coming to b4, although there are no real threats on b4, whether my knight decides to come there or my bishop. So this move, admittedly, is quite strange. He's already behind in his development with all these a3 moves, as you can see. I played bishop to d6. I continue to develop my pieces towards the center and take up space and gradually make my position better. Bishop to d2. He does develop his piece, and now I play g5. And this is quite an interesting move. I am sacrificing my pawn because white can just simply take it, but this is done for a reason. I am trying to attack the king here. Now, sacrifices are not necessary in all situations when trying to attack the king, but it is sometimes a resource to keep in mind. As in this situation, after g5, he could have taken the pawn. But if he takes the pawn, I get an immediate, very nice open file here. I can put my rook over here, and now this rook is really starting to put pressure on the king, and all these pieces are also pressuring the king. We've got the bishop and the queen looking over there. The position turns quite dangerous for my opponent. And so instead of doing that, he plays g4 and tries to kick away my bishop. And here I play bishop to e6. But in this situation, white does capture on g5, and I do consider this one a mistake, because although he does win 1 point of material, I am starting to mobilize my pieces towards the king, rook from d to g8, and we've got this really powerful attack here. As you can see, when you do want to attack the king, you have to really look to make your pieces closer to the king and to start to apply some pressure. As you can see, the rook is now placed on the same file with the king, and potentially if we can make this pawn destabilize, for example, by pushing h5 or perhaps f5, we can eventually break through to the king, start giving some checks, and perhaps eventually develop checkmate. So let's take a look at what happened over here in this game after this move. So he played bishop to h4 because I was attacking his bishop. So he doesn't want me to win 3 points of material just for nothing, and so he retreats with the bishop. And I play h5, and as you can see, I'm starting to really attack the king. The pawn cannot move because the king would be under attack. This is what we would call a pin. And there's already starting to be some really nice pressure over here. So he retreats with the bishop, playing bishop to g3, sort of unpinning the pawn, allowing it to move, as it is no longer directly guarding the king from my very powerful rook in this situation. And I do play h takes on g4, h takes on g4, and now I have a completely open, very nice h file here for my rook. Now the king, white's king, is already restricted, not allowed to go to this file because it's completely controlled by the enemy rook, which is very nice for me. I play bishop takes on g4. I win this pawn over here. Now we do exchange bishops, 3 points for 3 points. And I take with the rook. Now, why did I take with the rook? This one's a very important thing. I want you to keep this one in mind. When you are trying to attack the king, it is very unfavorable to exchange the queens. Because, let's say, I captured not with the rook, but with the queen. Now he can take my queen, and I will take his queen back. But the attacking resources become much more scarce because the queen, the most powerful attacking piece that there can possibly be on the board, when it disappears, a checkmating attack is really, really hard to accomplish. So I did capture with the rook here, and I've got some nice pressure with these rooks on these nice open files that I've got. Now he plays knight to d2. As you can see, because of these strange moves that he made in the opening, now he has to finish his development of the pieces on move 18. Usually one would finish his development much earlier. Now I'm playing f5. I want to attack this bishop and win it, because the bishop would not be allowed to move. It is pinned because the rook is directly attacking the king. And now white plays f3, and this move is a horrendous move because we are just simply allowing black to capture the bishop. The bishop becomes a completely loose piece, no longer defended by the pawn, and the rook just goes ahead and captures it with check to the king, a direct attack, as you may remember. And now I have won some points of material, and I am actively attacking the king. So king goes to f2, and now I'm starting to really mobilize my pieces. So I'm playing queen to h7, and I'm starting to create some really serious threats over here. If the queen comes here to h2, the king is going to be filled with checks, and we're really going to force him here into the center of the board, and eventually the knight will come in and join the other rook, and quite soon checkmate will come, and white can choose to capture this rook, but this will very quickly result in checkmate. In fact, this will result in a checkmate in one move, because this will be played. Of course, he didn't fall for this trap, and he did play rook to h1 over here. And you know, I don't want to trade this very powerful rook, so if I retreat with the queen, again, trading is not a very good idea, especially trading with powerful pieces if you're attacking the king. So I did indeed not do that, and I did play rook to h3. So this rook is perhaps not as important in my attack, and so it's probably better to trade this rook off. So I blocked this attack of the rook to my queen, and we exchanged, and now he's playing knight to f1, kind of desperately trying to get his forces to defend the king. Now I'm playing bishop to c5, delivering check as I'm directly attacking the king. And now he plays king to e1, you know, almost one of the only moves that is left. The only other ones, he could have gone here or here, but checkmate is coming very soon. It's a very hopeless position for him. And now I play queen to h4, another check. As you can see, my pieces are starting to crowd around the white king. We're giving checks. They are forcing moves. White is forced to move. More and more squares are blocked. And now after I play queen to h4 check, white really has only two possibilities. One is to go here to d2, and this would have let him last a little bit longer. He chose the worst possibility. He played king to e2, and this just allows me to checkmate in one with the queen. If you wish, you can pause this video and you can try to find this checkmate in one. If you did find the video, congratulations, you are an excellent checkmate finder. And if you are just here to enjoy the show, then I will show you that this checkmate is queen to f2 checkmate. And as you can see, in this game, I used my opponent's mistakes, the lack of development, piece development and center control that he exhibited in the opening, some dubious moves that he made, and some blunders where he just hung his pieces and let them be loose and let me capture them. And eventually, I launched this very forcing attack on the king, which allowed me to checkmate him in the middle game and go on to win the game. By no means should you remember or understand all of the principles that I discussed, because I did go into some detail here explaining why this game was a success for the black pieces. But I really hope that you did get a general understanding and a general grasp of how to attack the king in the middle game. And some really important principles to recap are that you do not trade the queens if you want to attack the king. Other powerful pieces that are valuable to the attack, you try not to trade them, even if you're not losing material points. And you're really trying to crowd your pieces around the opponent's king and give checks and make forcing moves so that you can eventually checkmate your opponent's king. I do really want you to like, comment, and subscribe, and keep watching the Chess Beginners Lessons series. They're linked in the description down below. I do really hope that you enjoyed this and that this video gave you some valuable knowledge and understanding regarding the game of chess. Thank you very much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my next videos.